How does a ship tip over while still tied to the dock, with hundreds trapped below deck? A soft summer breeze drifts across the Chicago River. The SS Eastland gleams in the morning light, its decks filling with families dressed for joy. Then, a sudden lurch. Screams vanish beneath the surface. Names stitched into picnic baskets, letters tucked in coat pockets, children waving from the rail. All gone in less than 5 minutes. But what really happened beneath those dark waters? The SS Eastland was born on the swells of ambition, a proud steamer shaped for speed along the Great Lakes, her hull narrow, her lines elegant, her decks alive with the optimism of a young industrial America. In the shipyards where she first took form, sparks rained across steel plates and rivets rang like tiny bells. Workers spoke of her as a vessel meant for joy. Excursions, fresh air, laughter carried over open water. When she began her early voyages, passengers marveled at the polished railings and the gentle roll that seemed more playful than perilous. No one imagined that buried within her graceful silhouette lay a flaw as quiet as it was fatal. The Eastland was fast, beautiful, and always balancing on the edge of instability. With each passing season she changed, shaped not by storms, but by human decisions. Safety laws tightened after the Titanic's sinking, requiring more lifeboats and heavier equipment. These additions pressed on the Eastland's delicate center of gravity, shifting weight higher and higher. She began to lean slightly at her moorings, a subtle sway barely noticed by casual eyes but deeply familiar to her crew. Some whispered their unease, watching cargo lists grow, watching decks fill. Others shrugged it off. She had sailed for years without disaster. Chicago's riverfront embraced her as a familiar sight, a hard-working excursion ship preparing for another year of company outings and lakeshore trips. But beneath every routine voyage, the Eastland carried a quiet tension, an uneasy promise waiting for the wrong morning. That morning came on July 24, 1915, beneath a sky washed in pale gold. Families from the Western Electric Company gathered at the wharf before dawn, carrying picnic baskets, folded coats, and the bright excitement of a holiday. Children pressed their faces to the railings, while musicians tuned instruments for the long day ahead. The Eastland, moored tightly against the pier, rocked gently as more than 2,000 people stepped aboard. The river smelled of engine oil and wet stones. A gull's cry echoed between warehouses. As the decks grew crowded, the ship settled deeper, her lean noticeable but familiar. A few passengers exchanged curious glances. A crewman brushed them aside with a tired smile. "She always does this," he said. But the air held a strange stillness, a feeling like the city was holding its breath. Minutes before departure, the unease sharpened. The Eastland rolled slightly to port, a drift so small it looked like nothing more than a casual gesture. Then she rolled again, farther. Chairs slid an inch, coffee rippled in its cups. A mother tightened her grip on her daughter's hand. In the engine room, men felt the deck shift under their boots. Above them, laughter faltered as the ship tilted once more, this time with a slow, deliberate weight. A silence spread like a ripple. Metal creaked, a line snapped against its cleat. And then, in less than 5 catastrophic minutes, the Eastland, fully loaded, fully alive with families, rolled onto her side. Water rushed over the railings in a cold roar. Windows darkened beneath the river's surface. A picnic basket floated upward, then vanished. The ship that had promised a day of celebration now lay half-submerged against the pier, her hull pressed into the mud as the Chicago River swallowed sound and color in a single, stunning collapse. On the riverbank, the city froze. Workers dropped tools. Streetcars halted mid-clatter. People stared at the impossible sight. A passenger ship lying on its flank just feet from shore, its underside exposed to the morning sun. Rescuers sprinted across the pier, smashing through windows, pulling at overturned chairs, shouting names that vanished into the muffled hush of flooded compartments. Fireboats arrived, pumping water, sending divers into the chilling dark. Inside the ship, trapped air thudded against the hull like distant knocks. Every minute felt like a lifetime. Chicago, a city used to noise and momentum, moved with aching slowness as the magnitude of the disaster took shape. The Eastland's final voyage had not reached open water. It had not fought storm or ice. It had simply tipped, a tragedy born not of nature, but of imbalance, oversight, and one crowded, ordinary morning. In the days that followed, the riverfront transformed into a place of gathering and grief. Families waited under gray skies for word of loved ones, clutching handkerchiefs, photographs, and each other. Newspapers printed sketches of the overturned ship, noting the cruel irony that danger had struck so close to shore. Investigations began at once. Engineers pointed to overloaded lifeboats and top-heavy construction. Others blamed the rush of boarding, the uneven distribution of passengers, or long ignored warnings about the ship's stability. Courts filled with testimony, each voice carrying a mixture of sorrow and frustration. Yet no single answer fully explained the moment the Eastland surrendered to gravity. The truth rested in a mosaic of small decisions, technical, human, bureaucratic, that together shaped the ship's final breath. Years passed, and the Eastland sank again, this time into memory. The river healed, its surface reflecting new bridges, new skylines, new eras. But on somber anniversaries, Chicago residents paused along the wharf where she once lay. Divers and historians traced her story through archives and recollections, piecing together the quiet warnings she had carried for years. The Eastland's wreck was eventually raised and repurposed, her hull stripped, her name removed. Yet the weight of her legacy endured. She became a lesson carved into maritime law, a reminder that safety is not just steel and rivets, but foresight and respect for the forces we build against. And in the soft light of early mornings, when the river is still and the city has not yet woken, one can imagine the Eastland silhouette drifting briefly through the mist, a ghost of a steamer built for joy, undone by balance, forever tied to the families who stepped aboard with hope in their hearts. Her story lingers in the quiet between footsteps on the riverwalk, in the echo of distant horns, in the gentle sway of the water that once held her fate. The Eastland's final lesson is not one of fear, but remembrance. Even the calmest waters can carry the deepest truths, and even the brightest mornings can turn without warning into history's darkest hour.